Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Central Mississippi Hub for Volunteers and Nonprofits Emergency Preparedness Community Meeting. I am your host, Carla Edwards, and the director of the Central Mississippi Hub. We are so thankful that you've joined us tonight. And this is the first of 4 meetings we will be having from now until June, each fourth Tuesday of the month. Their purpose is to help prepare our volunteers, nonprofits, and citizens for disaster response in what is now tornado season leading into hurricane season. We all can play a role in aiding the community during these times, whether it's giving our time through volunteering, monetary donations, or social services through our nonprofits. All of you came to know the Hub in different ways, so before we get to hear our special guest speaker, I want to briefly explain to you what the Hub Network is, who we serve, and why we are involved with disaster support. Okay, so the Hub Network is comprised of 8 hubs across the state who are assigned to different regional territories. So the Central Mississippi Hub covers Claiborne, Copiah, Hinds, Leake, Madison, Rankin, Scott, Simpson, Smith, and Warren counties. The hubs are a partnership with Volunteer Mississippi, which is the state's volunteer commission, and our host site. So the Central Mississippi Hub is housed within the Alliance, which is the state's nonprofit and philanthropic member organization. We serve the community at no cost to our nonprofits, and we are essentially a resource center to provide nonprofits with needed training, funding opportunities, and assistance to help build their capacity. And we are basically a one-stop shop to help connect volunteers to community needs. We also provide support to communities in times of disaster. So we don't want to place volunteers in spots just to have a warm body to complete a task. We want to ensure that volunteers and nonprofits' needs are met by matching volunteers with an opportunity that can utilize their skills. So whenever I get a call or an email from a volunteer wanting some hours, I always like to ask them what interests them and what calls that pulls on them. And so then I suggest agencies that match their need. If a volunteer comes to the hub by finding our website, centralmshub.com, they can search for opportunities based on their skills and causes they're interested in. So when you create a profile on the hub, you are asked what causes are important to you. And based on your response, the system suggests agencies for you to become a fan of. And then you're also asked if you would like to be contacted in the event of disaster. And so that helps us when the time comes to promote opportunities with disaster response organizations. We can reach out to those individuals. So a good match volunteer with a great volunteer experience leads to ongoing service. And of course, we promote our opportunities through different mediums all the time. So on our website, social media, and newsletters. So nonprofit capacity building and volunteer management happens when with training via the Alliance or events hosted by the hubs. The Alliance offers trainings weekly at a low cost and also have consultants for special projects. In each newsletter that I send out monthly, I provide volunteer management tips on recruitment, retention, and recognition. And the Alliance also offers 4 volunteer management trainings a year. So with the volunteer response centers, you see, that's one of the main reasons why we're here. We call them VRCs. They are set up after disaster to help streamline the volunteer process for those who are not affiliated with an organization and to send them to areas that need help within the first few days after disaster, once it is deemed safe to do so. The VRCs provide volunteer help to nonprofits, community, and faith-based organizations. So before a VRC opens, it is my responsibility to establish relationships with local county emergency management agencies, which we call our EMAs, local VOAD members, which are the voluntary organizations active in disaster, and other responding groups and research groups that can provide space and supplies and volunteers. And we also train those VRC volunteers. So when disaster strikes, local EMA and Volunteer Mississippi, they must determine the status of the area. So they need to know, what is the damage? Is it safe to deploy volunteers in the area? Who else is working there, and where will we send the volunteers? So a VRC is normally used for short-term recovery, but in this new virtual world, you can have different formats now. So for a virtual VRC, of course, there's no physical setup, but the hub director will work with the agencies involved in Mississippi BOAD to direct volunteers to organizations that accept unaffiliated volunteers. So we did this when the Great Flood happened right before the global pandemic started in Jackson last year. And so Mississippi BOAD president gave my contact information for those to the public, for those who wanted to volunteer. And when 8 Days of Hope and Samaritan's Purse was ready to take volunteers on the ground, we directed volunteers to their check-in when they called us on, and then we had a set up on our website to direct people to those organizations. So in the short term, if deemed necessary by the local county EMA, a VRC will be set up in person 2 to 5 days after disaster to register and deploy unaffiliated volunteers. They also record the volunteer data and they intake work order requests. And this usually lasts 2 to 4 weeks. Once it closes, the data is to be transferred to the long-term recovery committee. And the long-term recovery committee determines the needs of the area and continue to assess and send out complete work orders. And currently the Gulf Coast Hub was involved with the long-term recovery committee down on the coast with Hurricane Zeta to help fulfill work orders down there. So during these meetings, you will hear from disaster response organizations so that you may learn about their work and how you can assist their efforts. Our guest speaker for tonight is Steve Tiber III, President CEO of 8 Days of Hope. Steve Tiber is the founder of 8 Days of Hope, and he resides in Buffalo, New York. His wife of 36 years, Charmaine, and their 5 children, Stephen, Zachary, Hannah, Elise, and Emma, just moved back to New York after living in Tupelo, Mississippi for the past 19 years. Hannah serves as an ambassador with 8 Days of Hope. Steve spent over 30 years in the building material industry and recently served as a vice president and business manager with Provia. Steve left the business world on January 1st, 2017 to become the CEO president for 8 Days of Hope. Steve and Charmaine have partnered with Global Outreach as full-time missionaries as a way to make this happen. Steve serves as a board of director for other organizations, including Bigger Than Ball and Branches Worldwide. He also has a passion for Christian contemporary music and has been a volunteer leader at the Kingdom Bound Christian Music Festival in upstate New York for 28 years. Steve is one of 2 remaining original directors of 8 Days of Hope, along with Wayne Van Lindingham. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to our special guest tonight, Mr. Steve Tiber.
Wow, thank you so much. That's I don't know who wrote that, but that was pretty accurate. Thank you for inviting me today, and thank you for the introduction. Hey, it's my honor to be with you today. Appreciate it. You know, I lived in Mississippi for 19 years, and I absolutely love it. Still love it. The good news for me, we're still based in Tupelo, and that's where our national headquarters is located. We do all of our training there, a lot of our large meetings as we plan for the upcoming year. And so I get to come to Mississippi many times during the year, which is my second home. Let's step back. Let me just tell you a little bit about how 8 Days Hope started, and then I'm going to tell you what we do, how we do it, and how that affects those of you who are on this call and have a strong interest in the state of Mississippi. The number 8 in the Bible means new beginnings. And in December of 2005, after Katrina, my dad and I thought it'd be cool to take a couple buddies to the Gulf Coast. We picked Bay St. Louis, Waveland. We said, let's go find a widow, an elderly couple, a single mom. Let's just go help somebody rebuild their house for free. Well, so many times in life, I don't know about you, but I'm a planner. You have a plan, and then you realize very quickly that you have no control because someone upstairs is directing your steps. And that trip that was meant to be my dad and I and maybe 4 or 5 buddies, we took 684 people to Bay St. Louis for 8 days, hence the name 8 Days of Hope. And we rebuilt 84 homes in Bay St. Louis and Waveland. We partnered with 4 different churches, 4 different denominations, And we just served the families in need down in that area in December of 05. We weren't even a nonprofit. So we did all this work, and we're driving home and I'm weeping like a baby. I'm seeing boats and trees and girls' dolls on the side of the road that had been played with maybe by a young girl just a couple months before, and felt like we needed to go back. There was so much more to do. As you know, with Katrina, this wasn't a 1 or 2 year recovery. This was a 7 to 10 year recovery. So we formed a nonprofit. Our mission statement is 8 Days of Hope is a faith-based ministry that exists to love and serve those in need. Simple. We do two things. We help out after natural disasters and human disasters. I'll get to the human disasters later, and that will be a short part. And I'll tease you if you want to go to our website to learn more about that arm. Because we're talking about natural disasters, so that trip has now turned out to be a national ministry. When I left the corporate world, I was leading a corporation in 2017, as she was sharing. Just felt like God wanted us to expand in a big way to help as many people as possible. So when we started, we had 3 leaders. Today, we have 181 volunteer leaders. Try to herd those cats, right? They live in 32 states. They represent 11 different denominations. There's 5 different ethnic groups represented in our leadership team, from young to not so young, smart and less smart, skilled professionals, and then people like me, less skilled, but they have a heart to give. And so our disasters we've done over the last 15 years, we have helped 7,000 families now rebuild their homes for free, some from the ground up in 8 days. Our biggest trip ever was to Harvey with Houston. We took, and wrap your arms around these numbers. I don't have a fancy slide to show you this, but 4,692 volunteers went to Houston. We found a place for them to sleep. We didn't do anything. God found a place for them to sleep. We fed all of them. The feeding bill just to feed the volunteers for that trip was $161,000. And in those 2 8-day trips, we did a baseball doubleheader back to back. We helped 808 families rebuild their homes. 239 families got brand new kitchen cabinets laid out, bought, shipped, and installed in 16 days. To date, by far, that's the largest trip we've ever done. In fact, the largest trip that's ever been recorded by a volunteer organization. So we've gone all over the country. We were in Hawaii when the volcano erupted a couple of years ago. We've been in Illinois with tornadoes, Iowa with windstorms. Of course, we've done many hurricanes. Irene, Isaac, Katrina, Michael, Zeta, Laura, Delta. I can go on and on of some of the disasters we've done. Flooding, tornadoes, all across the country. So we've responded now to 60 disasters with a volunteer-led organization. We're based in Tupelo, where donors helped us specifically give to a project. We have a 60,000 square foot building. It houses about $3 million of equipment. So we have 4 shower trailers, 10 stalls each. God has blessed us with feeding units. We have a laundry trailer that's being deployed today in Mississippi. More on that in a minute. We have 6 Bobcats, multiple lifts, trailers upon trailers, 24, 25-foot trailers with commercial dehumidifiers and fans and chainsaws. Everything's paid for. I mean, that's just God. I tell people all the time, we're not that good, but he's great. We opened up our Northeast satellite in Buffalo, New York. So whenever there's flooding in Ohio or tornado in Pennsylvania, a freak windstorm, we have equipment and leaders that leave our building in Buffalo, 100,000 square feet, once again donated to the ministry. And last week, we opened up our Midwest satellite. We now have a facility in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So when there's a tornado in Kansas and there's flooding in Mississippi and a hurricane in Georgia, we can be in 3 different places, 3 different times, with 3 different sets of leaders and equipment, all for free. So Mississippi's been very important to us. Back when we launched our first, we have a rebuilding arm that goes 90 days or longer to an area, and we rebuild homes for 8 days. But then we also have a rapid response arm, and that started in 2014. I was living in Tupelo, an EF3 tornado hit Tupelo, and very quickly I felt like God was opening a door for us to minister to families like within a day or 2 or 3 days of a disaster. So we launched our rapid response arm. Well, in 5 years, we've gone to 36 disasters, many of them in Mississippi. So here's some of the places we've been to Mississippi the last 15 years. Now remember, we're a national organization, but we haven't gone to any states more than Mississippi. We went to Bay St. Louis and Waveland 4 times for 4 8-day rebuilding trips. We went to Columbia in 2000 and I'm reading my handwriting. 2000, I think in 18 for a tornado. We went to Holly Springs for a tornado in 2015. Hattiesburg, Meridian, DeSoto County tornadoes in 2017, 18, 20. We went to Jackson when you had flooding. You just talked about flooding a couple of minutes ago. We were there for, I think, almost 3 weeks serving families in need. And then we wrapped up our 15-year anniversary, crazy as it is, right back we started, Bay St. Louis Wave. And we went there because of Hurricane Zeta. We were there for 3 weeks, tarping some of the same roofs that we had put on 15 years ago. So our disaster arm, we go very quickly, rapid response, and we provide services for free, or we come back 3, 6, 9 months after the disaster is cleared, work with the Long-Term Recovery Coalition, and we rebuild homes for free. So let's talk a little bit about the rapid response arm. In a couple of seconds, give you guys a couple chance, ladies, to ask some questions. So it's simple for us. Like right now in Jackson, there's a water challenge. So what we decided to do yesterday is there's people that still don't have the opportunity to wash their clothes. They don't have the monies to go to laundromat, can't find a laundromat. And so we took our washer and dryer trailer, it's in Jackson at a church, right there in the middle of where the water is a big issue. And we're giving people the dignity to come and wash their clothes for free. We have 8 commercial washers, 8 commercial dryers. There's information about it on our social media sites. We're very proud that Renaissance Bank is one of our national partners, and they were excited for us to deploy that to Jackson. So sometimes we come with people, more often than not, sometimes we send equipment. And I think it's really important for you to hear this because we could be in 3 different places at one time, but if we have some equipment that your organization could utilize, we're open to bringing that equipment to you. Now, we might ask you to put up our volunteer, in a room in a church with an air mattress or a hotel. That's your decision. But we're willing to bring shower trailers and feeding trailers, and we're willing to be a great partner, teammate with other nonprofits and ministries. But we've led 40,000 volunteers now in 15 years. When you volunteer with us, it's free. We provide a safe place for you to sleep. We feed you really good. We always call it 8 pounds of hope. And you're going to have a blast. You might leave tired, but your heart's going to be full. And our rapid response trips that go right after the disaster, we stay 2 to 3 weeks. Hurricanes, we stay 5 or 6 weeks. So it depends the size of the storm. Again, it's free. More information, if you want to sign up for our email alerts, you can go to our website, 8daysofhope.com. Click on the email alerts, give us your email address. We're not going to blow up your email, but whenever we go anywhere, we'll let you know. So like right now, we just left Saturday, Kentucky. We were in Eastern Kentucky. They had major flooding. You probably didn't know about it. Maybe you did, but they had major flooding. We helped 66 families with their homes. We were there for over 2 weeks. We did over 300 loads of laundry for families who didn't have a laundromat within 60 miles of their town. Today, we're still in Texas. All those pipes that froze a month ago, remember that? You might have forgot about it because we got COVID and everything else going on. Well, as you know, disasters, they have a short window nationally and even a shorter window sometimes even locally if it's not in a big city. But we're still in Texas. We have plumbers right now working on dozens and dozens of homes for those to give them the opportunity to get water back in their house. And so this is a very unique outreach for us. We have professional plumbers that came in from all over the country, and they're going house to house to house, and they're fixing people's pipes for free. Now, they're not doing the insulation, the drywall, and the painting, because we want our plumbers to get as many people back with running water. And so that's happening right now. And we just finished, remember I told you about the other arm of the ministry, the human disaster part? About 15 months ago, we started a new arm where we build safe houses for those rescued from sex trafficking. It's not a fun topic to talk about, but it's the fastest growing crime in the world. We've done 5. We did 1 in Houston, 1 in Austin, Texas, 1 in Buffalo, New York, 1 in Indianapolis, Indiana. And just recently, we just finished a project in Northeast Mississippi. And so that's why I wanted to give it a little bit extra attention today. If you know an organization that is involved in ministry trying to serve those rescued from sex trafficking, we partner with an organization called Transformation Garden. And what they do is they give those who've been rescued a couple of years of free space. They love on them, these young ladies, and they give them the emotional, physical, spiritual support that they need. We're going to announce later this year when the NFL season kicks off. We're going to be partnering with a lot of famous people. Frank Reich is the head coach of the Colts. He's a dear friend of mine. Their ministry and our ministry is joining hands. And Peyton Manning, Tony Dungy, Mike Tomlin, Kurt Warner, Chris Collinsworth, a Christian group called For King and Country. We're going to be announcing that we're going to be building 32 safe houses in 32 NFL cities. So natural disasters and human disasters. Based in Tupelo, Northeast in New York, and the Midwest in Iowa, our hope and goals in about 2 years will open up on the West Coast in California so we can serve families after mudslides and some of the fires they have. So back to Mississippi. If a disaster happens in your town where you have influence or you are wanting to find a way to bring relief, it's simple. All you do is you call us. Now, we have some strong relationship in Mississippi. We usually know if a disaster is happening or is about to happen or just happened. Usually our rapid response team, we don't deploy, and I know some of you are like, oh, I don't know about that, but you'll understand in a minute. We need, unfortunately, to have about 100 families that need our help because we can't bring in 100 people and all this equipment and be done in 36 hours because 3 other organizations showed up. And so we usually don't respond to every disaster, but we're looking for some of the disasters like I just mentioned where there are more homes than that damaged. So let me stop there and see if there's any questions. I don't want to go long. I have a lot more I want to tell you. I want to see if anyone has any questions or anything to address.
Yes, definitely unmute yourselves or type in the chat if you have any questions. And that was going to be my question, Steve. How do you determine if you're going to do rapid response or long-term recovery?
So a couple of years ago, a tornado hit Meridian, and it went through the Hattiesburg Meridian area. Very quickly, we're talking to MEMA, we're talking to churches down there, people, some of the leaders are based in Meridian, and we very quickly see the damage. And we were there the next day because the damage warning. We always need a host church because we have to set up a command center. And remember, we provide food and lodging. Well, we'll bring the kitchen, even if the church doesn't have a kitchen, but we need open space for volunteers. And so those are the two things. A partner church that's willing to let us hang out for 2 or 3 weeks. Most say yes. And then a place for us to sleep and kind of be the command center.
And so another question that I had is, it seems like you have a lot of volunteers on hand already trained. So how does one become a trained volunteer who will want to travel around the country?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So it's really just by taking that baby step of saying, "Hey, Lord, use me." We're a family. We have different denominations. We look different. Some of us talk different, but we all love the Lord and we want to love and serve the brokenhearted. And so you can come serve with us. It's free. Any age. Our wisest leader is 87. Our youngest leader is 18. On our rebuild trips, we have families that bring infants. It's family friendly. On a rapid response trip, when there's a flood or a tornado in Holly Springs, something like that, you have to be 18 because it's a live disaster site. We do chainsaw training. Now, we don't want, someone like me who moves around a lot, they don't give me a chainsaw because I'm too hyper, I guess. But, if someone knows how to operate a chainsaw, we do a little class. We kind of watch them for a couple minutes. But we allow people to do chainsaws. And we're the only ministry I know of. Doesn't mean that we're any better than anyone else. But we have heavy equipment. We have 2 lifts that extend 55 feet over a house to get a tree off a house. We have 6 bobcats. And that equipment is used by our volunteers every day at every disaster we go. So those pieces have been used multiple times in Mississippi.
And it looks like Kanisha had her hand raised. Kanisha, if you had a question, please unmute yourself and you can ask Steve your question. Maybe that was by mistake. I had one more. So for the rapid response, and if we as a hub director and want to send volunteers your way, is there an application on site? How long is the training during the rapid response for volunteers that are just from this area?
Yeah, great question. So it's simple. On a rapid response, you can volunteer for as little as 1 day. You show up at 7:38, we're gonna give you a meal, give you a good looking t-shirt. We're gonna take you to a family in need, and you're gonna be serving under a professional leader who does this for his living, his or her living, and has traveled down to the site. Everything's on our website. So when we open a volunteer, so let's hope this doesn't happen, but if there's flooding in the Delta and we've got to go to Greenwood, very simply, we announce it through a press release. We announce it on our website, our social media sites, like those, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And literally, the minute we announce it, our website is active. You go to our website. It's a very simple form. You give us your email information, what day you're coming. Are you coming for one day or staying overnight? Are you staying with us? You sign a waiver, and you get all the instructions of where to go, what time to show up, what to bring. You go through about a 15-minute orientation period, and then if you don't want to use any chainsaws, you're ready to go. If you want to use a chainsaw, there's another step. But a lot of people like you and I, we want to pick up debris after a tornado. We want to gut a house 3 feet up because they had flooding damage, and they need to get the wet stuff out so we can bring our dehumidifiers and fans in to take the moisture out of the air so mold doesn't set in. So don't let the enemy try to tell you that, okay, I'm 70, I'm a female, or I'm 35-year-old guy and I have no skills. There's always something for everyone at 8 Days of Hope. During that Houston trip, remember I said how many volunteers there were? There were 4,692 volunteers. Think about the cooks that got up at 4 in the morning and made lunches for every volunteer that day. We're talking 6,200 sandwiches. Now, I'm not the smartest guy on this call, I promise you. I promise you. I can make a sandwich. I can make PB&J, turkey and cheese, and man, I got a mean bologna sandwich. If you like fried bologna, I don't know if we could do that, but my point is that don't let the enemy think that you can't bring anything to the table because you're not a firewoman or a fireman, or you've been trained in EMT. We've had 40,000 volunteers serve with us. Many of them have served many, many times. In fact, every time we deploy, we always ask, how many of you been with us before? It's always 50% or more. You come one time, you become a part of the 8 Days Old family, you feel comfortable with what's going on. Again, you might leave tired, but your heart's going to be full.
So I have one more question and let you continue. So you mentioned that you have leaders all across the country. How does one get to that status? Is there a specific training or so many disasters that you have to go on?
Yeah, so we'd like our leaders to be at least serve with us 2 times. And usually, to be candid with you, it's because we've seen them serve under pressure when things don't go right. Their attitude toward people, they don't talk down to people, they encourage people. We'll take time to even train somebody who maybe is not gifted exactly the way they are. We're just looking for that kindred heart. And so our 181 leaders, 4 years ago, we had 8 leaders. When we had 1 truck, about 30,000 hours of equipment, and 8 leaders. And God has blessed the ministry so much over the last 4 years. We're going to continue to add leaders around the country. Mississippi has more leaders for 8 Days Open than any state in the country. I think there's 24 in Mississippi out of the 181. Actually, it's 34. So a lot of leaders based in Mississippi. Again, we've had a long track record there and have enjoyed being there and plan to help out whenever we can, wherever we can.
And I see one more question in the chat before we move on. Natalie asks, if a person wants to take a leave from their job to do this, what is the process? So what have people done in the past? Do they take vacation days or sick days, or how do they come to help you if they're working?
Yeah, so on a rapid response, it depends when it happens. Remember, you can serve 1 day. So if a disaster happens on a Wednesday, we have people that just show up on a Saturday or even a Sunday after church. We have a lot of people who are semi-retired or retired. They buy RVs and they travel the country with us. I know sometimes I'm like, wow, really? Is that what you want to do? But that's what they want to do. So when we go to a disaster site, normally we got to have 20 or 30 RV spots for those who go from disaster to disaster to disaster. It's really just planning. You never know when a disaster is going to come. It's never promised to come from Monday to Friday from 8 to 5, right? It seems like disasters happen at 11:30 tonight, the night before Easter, or remember Holly Springs, Christmas Day or the day of? Christmas Day, I leave my family in Tupelo to go to Holly Springs with our leaders to work with the mayor and others to deploy people just the next day. That was one of our best attended trips. Why? Everyone was off. They wanted to do something. They drove down from Memphis or Cordova or up from Tupelo or over from Smithville, and they served and they drove back home and came back the next day. So just come and give us a shot and see if it's something that you like. And if it is, we'd love to have you come back time and time again. I'll close with this. I don't know if you have any other questions, because again, I can go on forever. We have a YouTube channel, and I probably should have had a video ready to go tonight. Go to our YouTube channel, 8 Days of Hope, and just watch our 2020 year-end video and watch what God did through the ministry of 8 Days of Hope last year. We shipped over $3 million of food. We provided, when there were no masks, we provided 500,000 masks to churches and hospitals across the country. COVID testing, still doing COVID testing. We responded to 9 disasters, 3 different hurricanes. It was a crazy year. We had to do it differently than we did in the past, but by the grace of God, we were able to finish a year without one person testing positive while we deployed. And that's not because we did anything special. I think God just covered the ministry last year, and already this year. We've already been to multiple places: Kentucky, Texas, Mississippi, getting ready to do another safe house in South Dakota, and waiting to see where the next disaster goes. So I always tell people, pray for us, volunteer, and check out our website. You can always donate. There's a lot of great ministries and nonprofits to donate. And if you feel called to, that'd be great as well. But just share us more about 8 Days of Hope with your friends and watch some of those videos. I think you'll be really encouraged about what God has been doing. And we also have a video on there with our Safe House construction ministry, where one of the ladies who's been rescued, she's in the home we rebuilt, and you get to hear her story. That's a heart tugger as well.
That is so awesome, Steve. Thank you so much for all that you do in your ministry. Thank you for assisting us in Jackson during this water crisis. It's been going on for a while. We really appreciate it and all the work that you do. And I'm glad to hear about your new ministry with helping those affected by sex trafficking. I would love to, I don't know if you've heard of Mississippians Against Human Trafficking, but if you don't have a connection with them, I would love to connect you with them. They do great work, and we just really appreciate it. And you really inspired me today, and I can't wait to send this out to the volunteers, because there's always something to do. People saying that, I don't have any skills or anything, but like you said, you can make a sandwich. That is something to do. So thank you so much. And Kanisha Potter says, awesome organization. Thank you for sharing. Awesome. Thank you so much. So we're going to move into now. I said I was going to hold you on community announcements. So tomorrow is the 7th annual Giving Day for American Red Cross. It's American Red Cross Month, and they are seeking donations. So please check them out. The Alabama Mississippi Division, go to redcross.org/local/AL-ms.html to donate if you're able to do so. Also, Hines Community Department of Emergency Management, they're seeking volunteer firefighters for their 12 volunteer fire departments in Hines County. So if you feel so led to do so, or someone you know that's interested in volunteering as a firefighter, please call 601-960-1476, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Our next meeting is going to be, I said, the 4th Tuesday of each month on April 27th at 6 p.m. We have 2 speakers thus far. Our guest speaker is going to be Tamika Smith J., Executive Director of the Southwest Mississippi Chapter of American Red Cross, Alabama and Mississippi Region. And we'll have Brian Grantham, Deputy Director of Rankin County Emergency Operations. We hope to have you all there. We appreciate your time tonight. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in April. Please be safe.